Cool, we're live. We're just going to wait for a couple people to hop in and we'll get things started.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, cool. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for hopping in here. This one's a special one. Um, it's pretty similar to what I used to do, which is going live with viewers, but this time I have Daniel Ness with me and Andrew Naegele. And if you guys look at the title of the video, uh, basically we're going to be talking about OpenClaw and business, um, risks, and how to do things responsibly. I didn't introduce myself. My name is Lior. I run a newsletter called Exploring ChatGPT here on Substack. And yeah, we're going to jump right into it. Thank you, everybody, for hopping in. Feel free to participate in the live chat as well, and we'll get to as many questions and comments that we can. So, yeah, let's do a brief introductions here. I'll start it off with Daniel, and then we'll go over to Andrew.
Yeah, sure. I'm Daniel. I write the Substack called Why Try AI, where I basically try all sorts of different AI tools, from LLMs to video models to music models to what have you, just to get a feel for what's out there. And then I share, of course, all the stuff with my readers.
Yeah. Andrew?
Yeah, my name's Andrew Naegele, and I work with a lot of 7 to 9 figure entrepreneurs with just general business coaching, and then got into AI early, so do a lot with AI. I own a company called AIsimple.co, and yeah, we help business owners to grow and scale with AI.
Awesome. So yeah, this is really cool because Andrew was in our last live stream and he was mentioning something about, he put in some numbers and this and that. I'm like, oh, that's he's probably talking about like views or something. And then no, like he was actually talking about real money. So, a lot of people see videos on YouTube, wherever it might be, TikTok, about how they're using OpenClaw to make money while they sleep, make money while they're in the bathroom, and make money while they're walking their dogs. But now we actually got someone who's really doing it. And this is going to be a little insight into that world of actually using OpenClaw in real business, and using it responsibly. So we definitely got a few questions for you, Andrew. My questions are more risk related, but I'd like to start off with some of Daniel's points because he made some good points in our WhatsApp group to ask you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think the one that isn't really more a question, but more like for Andrew to elaborate a bit on, is that it became pretty clear in the conversation that it's not just plug and play. It's not like you get this OpenClaw agent installed, you just get the technical stuff out of the way, and then you hand this magic box to whoever it is you are working for and just go, hey, go, it's going to just take care of everything for you. It was very clear that it actually requires your experience in helping startups and other companies and scalers, and it requires some level of proprietary data or understanding of their business to really get the value out of this agent, and also giving it constraints. And I thought it was such an important message to come from someone who's actually working with this, because as Leo mentioned, people hear, oh yeah, you just plug in this OpenClaw and it's just going to solve all your problems magically. Well, no, not quite. So I don't know how much you can elaborate on that a bit, to give a bit of legwork of what you do to make it actually valuable for people.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I want to start by saying that number one, I leverage AI in every area of my life. I've leveraged AI to lose 100 pounds in a year. I've leveraged AI to help me land my first 8 and 9 figure clients with zero experience. I leverage AI in every area of my life to save my marriage, to help me get OpenClaw clients. Okay. Like, AI is amazing. So we're living in an incredible time. But at the same time, um, these things aren't just plug and play and like setting them up and just powering it on and it's going to run and go. Um, and most of the time, the people that think that end up running into trouble, essentially. But um, I think it's really, really powerful. Like, we have access to infinite knowledge. Info is no longer, gated. Really, it's as much knowledge as you want. You can find on the internet now with AI and Perplexity and things like that. So Do some research, actually educate yourself about it and what you can do with it. And once you get everything set up, uh, probably the biggest thing that I see people, the biggest mistake that I see people make is overwhelming the AI with everything all at once. So they want to give it every single skill that's in the library, and they want to give it every prompt in the library, and they want to try to have it take over everything in their life. They feed it, 100 tasks all at once, and they're like, "All right." And of course, AI is confident, and AI wants to please you, so it's gonna be like, "Yeah, I can do everything for you, no problem." And then you're very quickly met with disappointment a few hours later when you come back to check in on it. So
Right. So before I ask you about any of the risks and Daniel asks you anything more about the structure, I think people are really interested to hear about the numbers. So I'd like to hear like how you find these businesses, how you started, how you charge these companies for your services, um, and how you stay in the loop with them instead of just you know hopping on OpenClaw, setting it up for them, and then leaving. So I'd like to get into that if you don't mind, Andrew.
absolutely. So number one, I'm just a regular guy. I have been homeless twice in my life. 12 years ago, I was poor as crap. Um, and asked my wife to marry me with zero money and zero ring, and just promised her that it wouldn't be like that forever. Um, and so, in terms of like being able to figure out how to get clients and how to do all of this and everything, it's all been about relationship building. And I think the biggest turning point for me was really a few years ago, where um, I decided that number one, I'd come out of voice AI, essentially very money hungry and very commission breath. And every conversation I had, I was trying to slam people into products, and it was all about closing people. Um, and I picked up sales, so I was pretty good at it, but it felt so manipulative to take people into the valley of despair and back out, and your product's the only product and all that. But what I ended up realizing in all of that was providing value to people first and taking a value first approach was really what ended up bringing me out of that. So I ended up starting to just watch and look for people that had problems and then offered to solve those problems. And then I realized that offering to solve problems for people made me just like everybody else. Because if you've ever opened up your messenger on Facebook or Substack messages or whatever, there's always somebody in there that'll say, "Oh yeah, I'll help you with that thing. I'll do that thing for you for free," or whatever. But very rarely does somebody actually put the result in your inbox, and that was what I started doing. I found creators or influencers. In many, in my case, it was Onyx and Gall, was somebody that I'd always looked up to as a marketer, being super into marketing and copywriting and everything. Um, I ended up uh, finding Onyx. He was posting about a problem with AI and a voice AI. And instead of offering to solve it for him, I just solved it, and then I sent him the entire solution. And it was funny because when he first opened it up, he was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! It looks like you sent me over a proposal and everything. I just want to let you know, like, I'm not ready to spend any money on this thing yet." And then you see like the three dots inside the chat, and then he's like, "Oh wait, oh shit!" It's like, "Oh, you just gave me everything." Um, and I literally had I he was looking to do like an AI voice coach, and I had gone and tested it. I had given him the entire system prompt, the prompt he needed to set it all up, like beginning days of voice AI. This was like 3 pages of prompting. It was a whole lot of like work that had gone into it, but I had been working on it for a long time. So for me, it was just like make a few tweaks and then send it over to him. But to him, there was a lot of work that had gone into that. And instead of trying to sell it to him, I just gave it to him. And ultimately he was like, "Well, you know what? This is my like this is a pet project." And this is probably one of the biggest things that I found is the problem that people complain about is almost never the real problem. And so solving that problem for them for free isn't really a big deal because the real money is in the deeper problem that they have that they'll hire you for when they trust you. And so, yeah, that was one of the biggest things for me. It was like just leading with value first and solving a problem and giving it to them rather than promising to do something like everybody else was.
Awesome.
To this
Awesome.
day, that's still the same thing I do. I've worked with a lot of 8 and 9 figure entrepreneurs and a lot of names that you would know, a lot of people that I looked up to for years. And every time I've landed by solving problems for them and then just giving it to them. And then ultimately they reach out to me usually.
Awesome. So can you get into a little bit about like the cost structure? So once you give them, you know, these solutions for their problems in their business, whether it's scaling, whatever it might be. So how does that work? Do you take a flat rate? Is it a percentage? How does that work?
Yeah. So the number one thing I would say, I work with a lot of, I also have communities and stuff. So I get a lot of uh, newer people that have never done this type of stuff before too. And this is a common thing. And I've been there myself where you get really, really worried about not knowing what to charge and all of this stuff. Right. And I had this same thing when I got hired by John Benson. John Benson, if you don't know who that is one of the world's greatest copywriters. He's known as the $1 billion copywriter. He was a hero of mine for years. He invented the video sales letter. So if you've ever opened up and seen an ad where somebody's selling you something via video, he's the guy that you know made that up. And I remember I had done the same thing. I built an app for him and sent it to him. It was using his IP, so I knew that it was nothing that I would ever be able to sell. I just built it because it was cool. Um, and he immediately reached back out to me and he was like, "This is absolutely incredible. I don't know if you realize I've been trying to do this for months." And um, when we got on, and he was like, "I would love to hire you." Number one, he hired me for something that I had never done. I had no clue how to do it. Um, had no idea how I was going to deliver it after we got off of the phone, by the way. But he asked me how much I wanted to charge. Um, and I said, John, I think you're a fair guy, and I think you're an incredible individual, and I don't think that you would try to screw me. But to be honest, I have no idea what something like this is worth or what to charge. And so honestly, what do you think it would be worth for me to solve that problem for you? And I can't really disclose the exact dollar amount, but I can tell you that what he was going to pay was mid five figures, over 50K. And he ended up paying me 3 times what I thought I would get, and far less than what it was going to cost him to get somebody else to do it. And I was like, wow, like I was thinking that I was going to get lowballed or something, right? And so just kind of being open and honest about that. In terms of giving you like real numbers for like what I charge to set up like OpenClaw now. And I've also talked to a lot of other individuals where I'm finding that this is actually a pretty I'm right in line with people. I got in my own head initially, thought that this was going to be like this is really expensive. Nobody's going to want to pay that, right? I charge anywhere from for like a complete setup, it's anywhere from 7,500 to 10K. Um, and then an ongoing monthly is 2K a month. But I also take all of the risk for people, meaning that I um, I set up these agents. I set them up with access to a credit card, to a bank account. An account that is completely separate from the business owner. I manage it. It's completely separate from my stuff. I set everything up so that it's entirely, uh, air gapped or whatever you want to call it. It's completely separate from what they have.
Yeah, it's like a
And
sandbox
so,
environment, basically.
yeah, exactly. Sandbox. Right. And that's the other thing, guys. I'm not like some super technical whiz guy that, I learn all of this stuff along with everybody else. I've just been fortunate enough to have been at the forefront of all of it and been early to the game of like, experimenting with stuff, diving in and trying it. So
Awesome.
It's pretty cool.
Before we get into risks and everything, Daniel, do you have anything to add or anything to ask
Yeah, I
Michael?
mean, now that we're still talking on we're still on the business aspects of it, like, and to bridge it from what I said, that it's not enough to just have this generic black box doing stuff for you. In your experience, how much, like, I don't know if it's internal or proprietary data, or how much like context from the individual do you need to feed this model for it to become useful, or is it more the framework you give it with and the constraints you give it? Like, can you put up some words on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is funny and honestly something that even myself, I was super like hell bent on giving the agent everything that it needed. I thought that the AI needed access to everything. So I've been kind of creating a world of text for myself for uh, months now, where everything, right? You guys saw it the other day. Like I record everything. I have transcripts of everything. I built software that brings all of the transcripts from everywhere all together and makes it easy to access with an AI. Um, I even up until last night, talking with another creator that actually does this stuff, had felt that I needed to give access to the agent to all of my memories and all of these things. And at the end of the day, the reality is you actually don't need as much as you think. Um, Even when you go to do a task, it's like, do all of your memories from childhood, do what you have done in the past and all your history, um, does how to mow the lawn and all of the skills that it takes to mow the lawn have anything to do with shoveling the driveway, right? And when you think about it like that, and you think about it like it's an actual employee, you think, well, why would I give it a lawnmower and instructions on how to mow a lawn if all I'm going to do is have it shovel my driveway, right? But people don't think about that when they're thinking about the AI. They're thinking about, let me give it every tool I can, right?
Right.
And the reality is, the less you give it, the better. Actually, you want to give it a very narrow mission and a very narrow set of skills, just like Liam Neeson from Taken, right? Like, give them the exact skills they need, and you'll be
And
amazed
they'll
at what
kill it.
you know.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Like, because obviously the context is limited, and there is such thing as like depreciation of context, right? Like the window can only handle so much, but also confusion, right? Between like, okay, I have all these Swiss Army knife, but I only need the knife. I don't need the bottle opener and whatever. So,
Yeah,
what I'm hearing you say, it's not about the quantity of data you feed it. It's the data and the background and the context has to be tied directly to the exact tasks that specific agent will perform. For lead
yeah.
generation is one set of background information, for something else it will be completely different, and you kind of
Yeah,
segment that and feed it.
I think that there's a couple of things there that are really important to like hit on, and it's number one, with everything in business and for everybody out there, just get started, right? So, like with the agent, just get it started. It doesn't have to be perfect day one. Just give it enough that it can start doing something for you, even if all it is cleaning up your desktop or whatever it is. Just do it and get something done, because you'll learn from that and you'll grow with it, and so will the agent, right? It's your mini little baby, right? So that's number one. And then the other thing that I think is super important is, um, like recognizing that, um, no matter what happens, like this is going to be a learning experience, and allowing that to stack up and become better and better over time, right? So give it enough context to start, give it a basic couple of skills to start, and then see what you need from there versus trying to just overload everything all at once. And then you can always start over again. You can
Right.
always reset the agent or whatever it is. So there was another thing I wanted to add in there, but I forgot what it was.
I
ADHD.
think it's a really good point though. Like in general, if you want to learn something, you got to do it. And sometimes just starting is the best way, and you learn as you go. But there's definitely some inherent risks that come along with using AI agents, which I'd love to get into with you. And also, I just want to say thank you again for both of you for being here, and also for everyone in the live stream and in the live chat, Y Fighter, Guy Sesta, etc. We'll get into all questions and things like that towards the end. Um, but I think on your previous point about how you don't need to give it everything, I think this actually ties in really well to this question that I have for you, which is basically tool permission, right? So the more tools that you give it, the more access you give it, the more dangerous it can become, right? Which is why it's probably a really good point, like you said, to just, especially if you're just starting off with it, just give it one small task. Don't get too crazy with it and learn as you go before you try to scale it like Andrew has done here, because you need to learn a lot about the structure and how to use it responsibly. So basically, the more tools you give it, the more possible surface damage, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it can delete files, it can leak private data, it can execute transactions that you didn't want. Like it was funny in one of our live streams, me and Daniel, we talked about like how it could buy you a yacht. Um, and so basically, it's almost like let's say you have an assistant or a junior engineer if you're working in tech, and you just say, "Here's everything, go." Right? You wouldn't do that with an assistant or a junior engineer. So why would you do it with an agent? So I'd like to touch on that a little bit in terms of tool permission. And let's say like when you're working with one of these businesses, what are like, if you could say like a handful, 3, 4, 5 items that you give a permission to without spreading it too thin.
Yeah, for sure. So, number one, I am very, I have ADHD, and I'm a very high risk individual. I've done extreme sports my whole life. I've always done uh, and looked at risk as a challenge more than anything. And so I'm the guy that would typically go in and say, "Oh yeah, I want to give it every permission under the sun, and I want to give it everything under the sun." And I have, and I do on occasion. But I think that what's super super important is that you understand the risk of doing that, right? Like, um, look, you're an adult, you can do what you wish to do, and I tell people all the time, like, if I think doing is super important. Now doing for a client is totally different. So, like, if I am going in and doing something, I may have a fully open API key hooked up to something that has every permission under the sun. I know that the risk of doing that is that it's gonna run like crazy, and I'm gonna lose a whole lot of money doing that. Like, are you okay with that risk? Because it's very real that that can happen. Same thing with just open permissions to be able to delete and do anything. The bypass, dangerously, what is it? Dangerously pass. Uh,
Yeah, bypass permission, I think it's called or
yeah,
something.
exactly, or something like. So, I have it saved in my clipboard. I use it all the time, but know that, like, when you come back and you're like, it deleted everything. I had this happened to one of my students. He was like, we were working on a project and things were going great, and then it deleted a bunch of stuff. I don't know what happened or where it went. How do I get it back? Well,
Do you
you
have a
get the
backup?
back, ask it to remember it, go back through, and like we can trace back through the whole conversation and try to gain back the context of what some of that stuff was. But at the end of the day, like, if it's gone, it's gone. And if you don't have a backup, it's there. So the risk is very real. Like, you want to be as narrow with that stuff as possible. I'm not the super conservative individual that's like, I just want to give it one permission. Um, but, like, you have to know, and so it's even as that very, risk averse individual, or whatever you wanna call it, like, I know that when I go in and work with businesses, that I have to look at what are the exact permissions that this agent really needs, what do I strip down and remove, and how do I make sure that their stuff is safe? Because that's ultimately, when people hear how much I charge, and honestly, I'm at the low end of what some people are charging for this stuff. Um, it's like, that seems like a lot of money. Well, they're not paying me to set up OpenClaw. You can go and set up OpenClaw for, you know, like $10 in a hosting account or something. And it's like $7. It's ridiculous. Um, they're paying me for the expertise of knowing how and when and what to do and how to do it and to achieve a result. So, that's what's super important is like, what are the exact things that are required to achieve the result? Not let me just give it everything. Right.
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question, Leo.
Yeah.
I know it's a little bit like maybe not the answer that you expected, but like,
No.
um, I love this dichotomy too of like you are a very conservative individual. You are very like I don't want to just give it free reign, right? And I'm more like experimental guy. Like my kids get responsibility till they prove they can't have it, right? And so it's like I don't want them going and jumping off of bridges yet, but like I used to, so I didn't die. You know what I mean? Um, uh, I love my kids are like, your dad, like, you're not the responsible one. That's mom. And it's like, look, you may say what you want, but like, you're still here. Okay. Like, there's a lot to be said for that. Look at your same thing with business like that. Like, obviously, don't just give this thing free reign to the keys of your whole kingdom. But if you set this thing up on its own computer, and you set it up right. This is probably the biggest thing that I would recommend for everybody is when you approach it, look at it like a real human. Okay. Like treat this thing like you would hiring an individual. You're not going to hire a human and bring them into your business, give them every password, access to your company computer, and just say, here you go, free reign. And by the way, here's the keys to my Lambo. Have fun at lunch. Okay, like you don't do that. Why would you do that with an AI agent who's 10 times
Mm.
more intelligent than the VA you were going to hire probably? But at the same time, like feel free to experiment, right? Which is why I set this stuff up separate. So I use Mercury for my banking that allows me to be able to create like um, cards that are set up that have limits on them that I can freeze at any point in time. I've also used a product called Privacy for the same reason. Like you can create, individual cards. Um, I've used like fast mail that allows you to have like throwaway email addresses, stuff like that, where, if you're going to go in, give this individual an identity. Mine's called Soren Vale. He has my same birthday. That's how I set everything up so that I know that like I'm never going to forget the birthday, but at the same time, it's separate from me. And then all of the accounts are set up under that individual. He has his own phone. Here's his phone. It's separate from my phone. Okay. It's like all of this stuff is kept separate. Um, but that then allows me to let him play. Right. One of the things I love is one of my friends, um, they have their agent literally on their heartbeat, like go out and discover who you are. Figure out who you want to be and what you want to do. And I think that's so cool. Like, I wish I had time to do that with an agent, but oh, sorry, guys. But like, he literally has it go out and just like surf the internet, figure out what you love, what you want to do, and it's like
Live a little.
getting into cars and stuff, and it's really quite incredible. Um, but that's the thing is like he knows the risks of doing that too. It could get into the dark web and weird, addictions of some sort. But it's I think like anything, the what you feed it, what you give it, and the intention that you have is going to come out in the end, right? So yeah, like set up a computer, sandbox it to an extent, and then let it loose and see what happens, right? Like if you give it $100 on a card, you're not going to lose more than $100. Just don't give it your actual credit card number, and you'll be fine. You know. So
Yeah, good point.
yeah,
Daniel, anything to add there?
No, this was back to the sandboxing thing. It makes perfect sense. I mean, I
yeah,
think backup and sandboxing, those are the two things. Like, if it's something with file system, anything that it can edit, make sure maybe once or twice a day, whatever frequency makes sense,
yeah.
back so
But
you can retrieve it. And the rest, yeah, limited.
it feels almost like you're creating an alter ego or whatever, but set up everything separate. So I actually have a guide on doing this. I think got to remember what the page is, but we can give it to everybody if they want. No, there's no gate or anything like that, but it's basically the guide that I give to setting up the actual employee, where you go out. I use Tello because I can get a phone number for $6 a month with unlimited like texting and everything. Um, so I set up a separate phone number, and then I set everything up from the phone for email and all of that stuff, where it has its own email address. I give it a company email address that's separate. And then this way, when I sign up for stuff, I can give it things like a password manager. I can give it one pass, and then I can put only the passwords that I want it to have access to in there. And
Excellent.
because it's got its own stuff, like it has access to my bank account. It doesn't have my bank login, but it has read only access as a user, just like I would an employee, right? Like, and that's the thing. Just people think it's easy. Let me just give it my bank login or whatever the login is, whether it's your bank, your email, whatever, right? Like I think the lady from Microsoft or something had given an agent access to her entire inbox and the ability to like delete everything, right?
Yeah.
Once it's gone, it's gone. Like be intelligent with what you're going to give it, or be okay with the risks, right? That's the choice.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like the main point you're making here is to have a degree of separation between you and the agent, whether that's giving it its own phone, its own bank account, its own phone number, its own email. Um, so I think I'll give you an example of how I was intending to use it before I didn't. Um, so obviously, we started a YouTube channel about like a month ago. And one of the things on YouTube that's so important is there's a couple things, but everybody knows thumbnails, titles, things like that. And so in my head, I was thinking, well, I have the prompts, I have everything I need. Can I automate it with an agent? And within like the past month, and I haven't used agents, but within the past month, because I'm putting out so much content, I have well over 100 videos. Mostly shorts, but like probably like I don't know 10, 15 long form. And so I was thinking it would be cool to have an AI agent that can I can give it rules, which is like if within 7 days I don't reach certain metrics, go in, generate a new thumbnail, generate a new title, and I want to confirm the final decision. But the danger in that is that I'm giving it access to my YouTube account, which in turn is also access to that email. Everything's connected through Google, obviously. So basically, obviously, I'd still want to have that say in the final decision, but there's no way for me to really create a degree of separation to do that because I would need to give it access to my YouTube studio. So that might be
Right.
problematic, and I might
I
not be
love.
doing that.
Can I interrupt you real quick, Lyric?
Sure,
Because I
sure.
I see this all the time, even in partnerships and business and everything. And this is one of my core things because what I heard you say is, I can't do X because it needs this, or the only way that I can do it is this, and right. So I can, the only way that it can do X, Y, and Z is if I give it access to this account. I can't do X, right? Um, I approach everything, and the reason I've been able to do everything that I've been able to do is because instead of I can't, I say how can I?
Mm.
How could I? So it's it seems silly, and it sounds like I'm not a woo woo individual at all. But if you say to yourself, if you approach this with, I can't do that because this, I can't do X because Y, I can't give it access to my account because then it could delete. I can't do it. You're always going to be in a negative state of mind of, I can't. But if you say, how can I? You will be amazed at what can happen. And so, how could you give it access to what it needs and be able to accomplish what it is that you're going for? Even if you can't do everything that you want to do, how could you do part of it? Right. And so it's like, maybe you can't give it access to do this from start to finish, but how could you automate a portion of it? And this is honestly why people hire me, because I will come in and, I worked with a cold email guy. It's one of the biggest cold email influencers. We took the business from under 40K a month to over 300K a month in less than 10 months. And the way that he did that was by automating a lot of stuff in the business, but it was not everything was completely automated. Some things need a human in the loop still. And so for you, for instance, maybe it doesn't start with giving it absolutely everything to be able to change out your thumbnails automatically. But what if you gave it enough ability to read metrics to tell you when that needed to be done? What if you also had it draft some thumbnail variations for you? What if you also just asked it, how would you approach this problem?
Mm.
Right? I think you would be amazed at what happens when you do that and when you start asking questions instead of assuming answers.
Yeah, that's a
Right?
good point. I think you sold me. Um,
So by next week, you'll be on OpenClaw up and running. Is that
yeah,
it?
listen,
Or
I'm a very risk averse individual to an extent. Um, kind of like I think I mentioned to you, when we spoke yesterday. Um, I have an office job. I have my own personal business, which is actually close to where you live. And it's like I don't step in a deal unless I know I'm going to make money.
Yeah.
So in that way, I am maybe more risk averse than some people. Like even in the markets, like I don't play around with single stocks. I just buy the S&P 500. You know, because there's certain things I'd rather spend my time doing. But I think that your approach is definitely correct. Instead of I can't, it's how can I? And I know what I want to do, which I think is a good point. I just noticed, like in the live chat, like someone says, "How do you start? Where do you start? What do you do?" I think not everybody has this like a platform, let's say like I do or like Daniel does, where like you actually have real use cases that you already know. So, I mean, I would consider for people that don't know where to start to actually, if you don't have a business, if you're not running a Substack or whatever it might be, like you can actually use AI to help you come up with ideas too. And I do that all the time.
Yeah.
So like, it's an incredible idea generator. So I will say like back to that topic, I'll tell you what I was concerned about. Um, when you put yourself out to the public, right, you're risking if you automate any part of that process. Because in terms of what I wanted to automate, what I mentioned, I want the final decision to be mine. So
No problem.
I would love it I would love to give it certain metrics and certain time frames and say, okay, now thumbnail, title, and then let me see it, and then I okay it. That would be awesome, right? So in my head, the risk averse side of me was like, well, I'm posting content publicly, and also if something gets deleted off YouTube, it gets deleted permanently. Um, so any views, anything that could have built up on a certain video could just be gone permanently. And also obviously like posting, private
I
information
can't
and
hear you at all, by the way, Leor, if you're still talking. I'm sorry. It just
oh, okay.
completely cut out for me.
Can you hear me, Daniel?
I can hear you. I'm not sure if it's on Andrew's side or
Okay.
hopefully.
Yeah, Andrew, let me know on your end if anything changes there. I'll just keep talking in the meantime until you until you let me know. So yeah, basically what all I was saying is I'm a little more on the risk averse side. But in terms of giving it access to my YouTube, I definitely want to find out like Andrew said here, how can I? I'm probably approaching it in the wrong way where I'm saying I
Yeah,
can't.
makes
So
sense.
Andrew definitely sold me there. Andrew, can you hear me now? Yeah.
I can now. Sorry. What
No, it's all good.
happened?
It's all good. Yeah, but basically, um, I think what you mentioned earlier about you have a friend that he set it up and he's just like more experimental. I think that's a good rollover point into prompt injection, which is if you let an AI agent, browse the internet, basically, it can, for people that don't know what prompt injection is, it could be anything from advertising that you don't see on a website all the way to, you know, something that could be like a malicious attack on you while you're browsing the internet that it's embedded in the code on a on the web and you don't see it. And basically, if you just give an AI agent free reign to just do whatever it wants on the internet, that could become a little dangerous. So if either of you guys want to comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, it can tell the agent to take whatever action it has the tools and access to. It can say, "Hey, go delete Leo's entire YouTube or post some racist stuff on his YouTube, whatever, or just give me his passwords to his accounts and transfer their accounts to me." So in theory, that's like the high level of risk, right? But again, back to sandboxing, right? You probably don't want it to have access to those personal details, right? You want it to have access to maybe its own credit card, like you said. So the worst thing that happens is it exceeds its daily limit or hits its daily limit of $100 or whatever it is. Um, so yeah, it's a very real risk from what I understand. I haven't personally experienced it with anything I've run, but it is out there, and knowing that it's out there also makes like kind of increases the risk that somebody out there is thinking about how can we make all of these OpenClaw agents running around? How can we make them work for us in this malicious way? So
I I and see, I again, I look at this very, very differently because again, no fear and jump out of airplanes, all the fun stuff. So, um, my I don't like going through life afraid, and I'm trying to approach everything where I'm not scared to take a. There's enough things in life holding me back in my own head without allowing everything else out there to do it. And we all have limiting beliefs. We all have mental models that hold us back. But at the end of the day, um, I think it's really easy to be scared of things that like we live in a world where no matter like what your political belief, there's all sorts of stuff out there that people tell us to be afraid of. Um, my mom was scared to death of the man in the white van, and then wasn't taking it. It's like we have these fears of like prompt injection, right? Like, who do you know that's been affected by prompt injection? Um, I don't know anybody personally. Sure, it is a risk, but like I'm not gonna be super worried about prompt injection right now when I'm more worried about like how can I get in my now that's just a way to look at it. It really is, and I get that. Not everybody has that same level of risk, but take a step back and if you set this up the right way, which is I think what the moral of the story is more than anything, is sandboxing and keeping things separated. Right? What's the worst that could happen? Right? So I think like when you set this up, get started, just do it. And like if you don't, number one, I wouldn't necessarily recommend setting it up on your own personal computer. But if you don't have anything on there that you care about, what's the worst that could happen? But like, you know, if you grab another computer or go out and buy an or whatever, if you don't have the ability to do that, find one on Facebook Marketplace that's old as crap and whatever. Like put a little bit of money into it. But like the thing is set it up separate. Give it its own separate email account and all that stuff. And then what's the worst that could happen? Right? Like same thing with YouTube. If all you did was give it view only metrics to like your YouTube analytics or whatever, and we could figure that out. We could figure out how to give it the right stuff, the APIs, whatever. You'll have AI help us. But like if all you did was give it the numbers, what's the worst that could happen? You didn't give it a credit card. You didn't give it your password. You didn't give it. What's the like? What prompt injection is going to? What's it going to do? Tell everybody the numbers of your how many
yeah,
subscribers and views you get, right? So
I think we're on the same page here as well. It's that like you always want to look at the worst possible scenario, and if you're okay with it, then go run. Like if you can absorb that critical loss, and if not, how can you sandbox it so that the ceiling is lower, and then you can unleash it, right?
I want to. This is funny because I'm gonna tell you guys a really. I'm gonna try and keep it a really short story. We were in Florida on vacation, and we went to rent jet skis and take jet skis around. And there were dolphins all over the place. So we were able to actually ride the jet skis and then like have dolphins right near us, which was a dream for my wife, my kids, everything. Um, I had my oldest daughter, Ariana, on the back of the jet ski with me. My other daughter, who's very much like Lior and very reserved and worried about everything. We had everything separated, right? My wife is the reserved one with the daughter that's very, very reserved. That's like telling dad not to speed, telling dad not to do this. My other daughter is the one that's usually a little more risky, right? She's my first child, and we were on the back, and I was going fast and doing tight curves and stuff like that. She's like, "No, dad, don't. No, dad, don't." Blah 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 blah. Yeah, and we're gonna fall off. We're gonna, whatever, right? And sure enough, she did fall off. And she was all sorts of upset and she was crying. And I got her back up on the jet ski and I felt like a total piece of crap because, of course, she did fall off. And the thing that I was like, never going to happen, it happened like it all, it's like Leo, like now I'm going to get prompt injected tomorrow because Leor talked about this and I said it wasn't a big deal, right? So, so she gets back on the jet ski and she was like, I told you, Dad, I told you, I told you, I told you. And I said, look, you can either look at this and you can tell everybody that we were screwing around and you fell off and you almost drowned and all this other nonsense, or you can tell the world that you just swam with the effing dolphins because you really did. Because the dolphin was 5 feet away from you while you were going, ah! Right? So, like, the mindset of looking at it through the right lens is important, right? So, like, yeah, she fell off and like I had to get her. I was worried to death that like, she's bobbing along, like she got a life jacket on, thankfully, but that could have been a very, very bad situation. Could have gone really, really bad. It didn't. And at the end of the day, like, how am I going to look at that? And how is she going to look at that? Right. Like, she's able to tell people that she swam with the dolphins. Right. Like, because that's the view to look at it through. Not like, so with this, like, get the AI agent up and started. Like, have your moment of like automating something. It doesn't and look, my wife is also, again, my wife is not like super into AI and all that stuff like you would expect, but I gave her access to my agent, and then I'm pretty sure they're having an affair. She talks to him more than she talks to me. Uh, uh, but, funny enough, like my wife actually thought that I forgot her birthday, and she tried to have my agent, she tried to prompt inject my agent. She told my AI that he should make me feel bad for forgetting her birthday. And his response to her was something along the lines of like, I'm sorry, but I'm not comfortable doing that. I'm not I don't want to get in the middle of your relationship. And number one, I didn't forget her birthday. She was asleep when I came downstairs and I had calls I had to be on. But at any rate, I am a good husband, promise. But at any rate, it's like the thing is just start. So like she started having conversations with him and she was blown away at what he was able to do. She runs a photography business. She does newborn and maternity photography. She's very, very good at it. She's booked out months in advance, but there's a lot of things she could be doing to automate more of her business. As you can tell, I stay out of it because that's business and this is personal. So we have it separated. We have it sandboxed for that reason, right? Like I'm very different. But, like, now that she started to, she was, like, able to, start automating more of the process of creating reels for her Instagram, of creating, social media content. He's helped her with, her website and with doing all of that stuff, with getting the copy on her website improved. And so it's like, you know, it's not running her whole business. But is it making her more efficient? Yes. And is it getting her more consistency? Yes. And those are the things that are important. So it's like, even if you set up OpenClaw or don't set up OpenClaw, just use AI in general with an agent. You'd be amazed right now if you have a Claude Max subscription, you can get Cowork on a Mac or on a PC is practically OpenClaw. It literally has an incredible amount of ability to create skills, to create plugins, to do just about anything you want to give it access to do on your computer and in your life. That's the simplest, easiest way to get started if you don't want to set up OpenClaw. Just set up Cowork and go in and have a conversation with it. How could we automate just finding how many views I have? Like, how could we improve my YouTube channel without giving you free reign over everything? Like, ask questions, be curious, and just start asking, how can I, versus like assuming that you can't, right?
Yes, I will say there's a really good points that you made there. And I like the example of the jet ski, and I want to touch on that as well. Um, I think there's a difference between being fearful and being risk averse, but I also think that being too risk averse is very detrimental to anybody that wants to grow. I used to be a very private person. Even on my Substack, I wouldn't show my face, and then I realized I need to put a name to the face. I need to put myself out there. So I took that step, and I jumped in the water. And I'm all about screw dipping your toe in the lake. Just jump in, right? And that's the way I've been doing so many things. Um, but I'm also aware of the fact that there's a lot of things I don't understand. And like, for example, I shout this guy out on almost all my live streams because I do weeklies with him as well. His name is Chris, and he runs a Substack called Toxec, Toxsec. He's an ex-NSA guy and just super knowledgeable cybersecurity guy. And, I mean, most of the stuff he said, I truly didn't understand. I'll just be honest about it. Which is why also, like, because I don't understand it, I feel like I need to do a little more research on my own. And I think that's why this conversation is so important, because Andrew here learned how to structure it and how to, and basically he built this thing from scratch in a way where when he started, he knew a limited amount and now he knows so much more. So I think in the example of the jet ski and prop injection, for example, the issue with that is when you're on the jet ski, you know that the danger is you're going to fall in the water, right? And honestly, I don't like the beach. I don't like the water. I don't know what's in there. Uh, so I'm similar to your daughter in that sense. Um, but yeah, it's cool to swim with the dolphins. But the issue with the comparison is that um, a lot of people don't know about prompt injection. Even I don't fully understand it. And it's not like a danger that you can see. It's a danger that you can't see. So I think that's the main difference there. And yeah, basically, yeah, we're almost at like an hour here, and I got to go to work soon. So I think if you guys don't mind, I'll go through a couple of these chats. Thank you, everybody, again. Um, and maybe we'll answer 2 or 3 questions, and then we'll wrap it up here. So let's see. Big thanks to Y Fighter. He's been really active in the chat. Um, he was relating to you, Andrew, and the fact that you said they used to be homeless. He said they used to be homeless as well. So it's cool to see, people take themselves out of that situation, you know, throw on the boots and tighten them up and tighten the bootstraps. So let's see. Guy Sestas says, actually, I did a live stream with Guy and going live with viewers. He says, whenever you have time to answer related to AI, we have a generation drowning in information and starving for wisdom. What are the 3 skills, principles people need to adapt it now in AI or to adopt? There's so many that can be overwhelming for the average user. Question is for both guest speakers. So if you guys want to touch on that.
Yeah. I actually have, I think I mentioned it on one of our chats before, and one of them is to make things easy, take an inside out approach, because if you're going to be just looking at everything that's out there and all of those solutions that are looking for problems, you will be overwhelmed because you're like, oh, I can try this, I can try that. There's a voice model, there's OpenClaw. Let's stop and start with yourself. I mean, like, what problem do I need to solve in my life? Whether it's business, whether it's personal, whether it's marriage, whatever. What and can I try to see if AI can solve it? And the only way you will answer that is by just trying it. Go to whatever, if it's ChatGPT or OpenClaw, whatever you feel comfortable with, and say, here's my problem. What do you recommend, or what can you practically do for me? See what happens. maybe the answer is, oh, there, it's not quite there yet, or maybe the answer is going to surprise you and wow, it like Andrew's wife in this case, and you'll be like, oh wow, this is amazing. And the second more practical thing I always do now, I've written about it maybe like 3 years ago, but it still stands true, is every time you give a request to a large language model or an agent, actually, instead of just trying to formulate it perfectly from the ground up, just start it, give the request, and then ask it to interview you about it. Like you say, like, here's what I need done. Ask me any clarifying questions that you need to help me do this better. And sometimes just those questions make you go, oh yeah, that's right. I didn't think about A, B, and C. Here are the answers. And now you get a much more tailored response. So those are two things that I think will get you from 0 to 80% very quickly. And then from there, just take it and learn, as Andrew mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off of that, saying that I think ultimately what it comes down to is one, be curious, right? So be curious. Two, ask questions, right? So um, one of the most powerful things that I have done prompt wise is actually just ask the AI, what am I not thinking about? What haven't I asked you that I should? Okay. And also like just pick one thing. I started out by telling you guys like um my wife and I have always communicated via text message because I get loud and excited and I naturally swear, like I cuss like a sailor. My wife takes that as if I'm swearing at her versus just swearing in general. And so instead of having that face to face conversation, we worked through it. And our whole marriage, we've talked via text if we needed something or if we were needed to disagree on something. We've gotten a lot better about working on that. But when I say AI saved my marriage, I'm not joking. Like JI, like going in and saying, um, and not blaming other people, but looking at it from the inside uh, of like, what can I do? What am I like? How can I communicate better? How can I do something better? What am I not doing, or what am I doing that's causing this? Right? How can I communicate better with my wife? Well, the reason why you guys are having this issue is because of X, Y, and Z communication, right? And AI has so much like knowledge. It's incredible. And I see something from MT that's sad. Um, I have an incredible marriage. I've been married for 12 or 13 years now. And we are very, very close. My wife is my best friend. When I say like we do via text, like there is no love lost. And I actually as a result of that, was able to do an incredible slideshow for my wife for our anniversary that AI was able to help me put together because it was able to pull all of our text history um, and show how we've grown over time um, from pointing fingers and placing blame to assuming responsibility and asking questions and growing as people and individuals. So there's positive to everything. I look at everything from a positive lens. I always look at what's the positive in it. And again, just like ask questions, be curious. Um, you can be amazed at what AI can do for you if you just start asking, how can I? If you just ask questions and if you just get curious. Do one thing, right? Like what's something that you have been trying to figure out or that you have wanted to do and you couldn't um what is any problem in your life right now? And don't take um don't take no for an answer, don't take I can't. These are all things that like it's just a matter
It's
of
9 o'clock.
if you get an initial no or if you get an initial answer that you don't like, continue to have a conversation. Start a new one if you want. If you got a no and you didn't like it, ask the question different.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
hopefully that helps some people. That's my biggest thing. It's just like go out and do something, try something.
Yeah.
Um,
I think, yeah, I would love to continue the conversation and keep going on this. Unfortunately, I do kind of have to wrap up. There's a bunch more chats here. Um, And I want to say also during the conversation, if there's any background noise, I apologize. I got a 2-year-old upstairs. So yeah, um,
Been there. So
Yeah.
before we wrap up, I'm just going to throw this in here. That's the YouTube channel in the live chat. If you guys want to go and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. And that's where the live stream will be posted as well as some clips. Um, there's many more live chats here that we could get into, but unfortunately, I do have to wrap up. I will say, in terms of what Andrew just mentioned, it's a very interesting point. I think a lot of people are using AI to help them with relationship issues, and that's a very tricky topic that maybe we can get into another time. Um, but basically, and Andrew there also AIsimple.co. That's his company there. So I just want to say thank you again, everybody, for being here. Um, thank you to Daniel. Thank you to Andrew. Um, so if you guys don't mind, go subscribe to them as well on Substack. That's Daniel Nest and Andrew Naegele. And yeah, that's about it. Unfortunately, I have to wrap up here. So
yeah,
it was a great conversation. I really appreciate it, guys. And yeah, subscribe on YouTube there. Subscribe to Andrew. Subscribe to Daniel. And everybody have a great day. Thank you.
thanks, Leo. Thanks, Andrew. It was great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.